All right. And just a reminder that we've got some great things scheduled coming up later this month and into February. January 13th, next week, is Book Creator with Sherry Walker. It's a great online tool that she's using to target literacy for reading and writing online books. Then January 20th, Laura will be talking about the STAR online curriculum system she's using with students in her DCD classroom. The 27th will be Stephanie Jasperson-Agonis talking about epic reading and explode the code. So some more reading and writing options. And then in February, we will have Stacia talking to us about boom cards on February 3rd. So some great things coming up. Be sure to sign up for those as you get the information. Just a reminder about why we're doing office hours. We started these last year when we transitioned to the first time to distance learning. And as we're making all these different transitions, we know it's tough to do that. So we wanted to make sure that we could share resources across the district. We know that there are great people out there doing amazing things, and we wanted to make sure that they could share the content with others. So that's why we're doing office hours. As we are talking about assistive technology and tools that are available, we want to make sure that we keep in mind the SET framework as we consider that. And that just keeps in mind the student, their strengths and needs, the environments, the places in which they're doing things, the tasks that we want them to do, which likely might align with your IEP goals and objectives. And then we choose the tools based on those things. We always look through a lens of equity to make sure that every student is getting exactly what it is that they need. So with all of that in mind, we are going to get some great sharing today by Jodi Stacken, our guest. Then we'll have time for question and answers. I'll share a few additional resources and we'll do a quick wrap up. So without further ado, I'll introduce to you Jodi Stacken. I know that she's going to introduce herself to you. So Jodi, I'll hand it over to you. Do you want me to advance the slides or would you rather screen share and advance them yourselves? I should have asked you that before.
You can advance them. I'll just kind of go.
Sounds good. Just tell me when to move to the next one.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. As Julie said, I'm Jodi Stacken. I teach here at ISD 709. This is my 25th year teaching special ed. The majority of my years have been in a level 3 DCD, and currently now I'm like a multi-categorical. I have a variety of needs in my classroom, and I'm at Lester Park Elementary School. So I serve one of the level 3 programs there. Go ahead and go to the next one. So when Julie, we were talking and I was asking to check out some of the adaptive toys and equipment and stuff. And I was so excited about all of the things that were happening with one of my students that is nonverbal, physical needs and whatnot. And so she's like, hey, do you want to present? I'm like, no. No, I shouldn't say that. But anyways, she was super excited that I was excited. So she asked me. And so by all means, I'm not an expert at this. I have been learning as we go, researching all of the, different ways and resources that we have. The things I think the biggest key points for a successful distance learning opportunity that I have found is to make sure we explore all the resources that we can. Switches, devices, people, everything. And then because if we don't have that stuff, then we're not able to, actually teach from a distance. And I don't want to leave the families unequipped with everything so that when we're teaching them that they're just sitting there and I'm doing the teaching. One big thing I really remember too at the beginning is being prepared. I'm working with 2 different families with one particular student. And so you need to make sure that you email them and say, hey, this is going to be our activity tomorrow. Can you make sure that he has his switch, his jellybean switch, his Dynavox plugged in, ready to go. Because that's the worst feeling is when you get onto a Google Meet and one of the switches our technology is not ready. And so then you have to be quick on your toes and adapt and do a different activity. So be prepared is one big thing. And then also provide options for communication. Making sure that that student that is nonverbal, that has that option to opportunity to voice his opinion, her opinion, either through a jellybean switch, step-by-step, Dynavox, whatever. But make sure we're giving them those options, because like I said, we don't want to just give them that just one tool to use. We want to give them a variety of tools to use. Okay. These are the current tools that I use for my student. The step-by-step jellybean USB switch, and of course his Dynavox. He is a eye gaze Dynavox user. So this has been a huge tool that I have been learning as we go. I've had him since kindergarten and he's in 2nd grade. And I'm learning just as much as he is. So Danelle is our Dynavox rep in our area, and so she is she's a great resource to connect with if you have a question about things. So another thing that I sent home with him was the environmental switch, only because with being distance learning, you only have limited time working with him. He meets with me for Google Meeting, and then, or morning meeting, excuse me, and then another academic time 3 times a week. So we want to give him other opportunities to do things at the home so that he's not just, sitting around or feeling like he's not included in education. So I sent home the environmental switch so that they could practice certain things at home as well. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead, and I don't know if this is what Julie was looking for, but I kind of created some slides on how I am teaching my student in distance learning. And so a few things that I have used are Tar Heel Reader and Unite for Literacy, and I put both websites on there. These are 2 reading sites that you can have a student read a story with you. And they're great to have because when you're using the jellybean switch, the USB, your student is able to position the cursor on the next arrow page. And so then when your voice is done talking, that would be their cue to turn the page. Unless you have a reader, then obviously they would be able to turn the page because they know that the last word has been spoken. I have a preference of Tar Heel Reader just because the student that I work with has visual impairment as well. And so Tar Heel is able to modify the books that you're reading. Like you can change the background color, you can do the text color, you can even change the voice. Whereas Unite for Literacy, I think you only have, here's your book and it's going to read it to you. Both programs are great, or it's just that I prefer one over the other. In addition to reading a story, I've created some slideshows for him to adapt to some stories like who, what, when, why stories. And like the slide would be who was the page talking about. So I would have like a boy and a dog. And so then he would have to choose either one of the answers correctly. Yes, no questions. I would, again, have a slideshow presented for him that, is this a carrot? And he would have his step-by-step already programmed as a yes, because right now he's not doing yes or no for the sides. So we would choose either yes or no prior to our Google Meet. But those are some fun things that we've been implementing for a reading part. Okay. Another activity is he joins us with morning meeting. This is all designed through Jamboard. Sherry out at Lincoln has been a huge resource to me. That at the beginning of the year, I sat in on one of her sessions last year when we were in distance learning, and I'm like, that sounds like fun. But then I put it on the back burner, and then this fall I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, we can do whatever we want now. And so I reached out to her, and I really like Jamboard. It's a fun tool to use. It's an interactive tool for your Google Meet. And so this is actually kind of fun too for my nonverbal student, because on his Dynavox, he's able to interact with Google on his Dynavox. So all his adult needs to do is click on the link, and then he gets the Jamboard as well. So this is just an example of something that I do for morning meeting. One slide is the good morning, and then the next one that you see is a snowman is a different slide, but they get to interact with moving the days of the week. And yes, he's limited to his hands and stuff, but he could use his eyes when I ask him, what is today? And so if he is able to look at Wednesday, then his adults or staff would then put it over to today. So at least he's interacting. So for numbers and letters, same thing. These are two Jamboard activities. I just chose a couple of activities just because I could sit here for hours and talk to you about all the different things I've created. But so I would read the question, we would count the cats together, and then he would go over to see if he can identify the correct number. This is a great way for me to see the data, because through Seesaw or through learning packets, I don't know who's actually doing the work. So when we're doing Google Meet and we're doing it through like a Jamboard like this, I'm able to see what he's doing. As far as I do have to have the adult tell me what he looked at, and I just have to trust. I mean, that's what's going to happen. But because I don't see the other end of his Dynavox, haven't learned that yet. There is a way. I mean, UMD. He goes to UMD for his eye gaze program, and I have reached out to Danelle, and I know she's extremely busy, but I really, really, really would like to know how to get into his Dynavox like they do. They are able to remotely go in, and I think they use it through Zoom, but I don't know, does our district support Zoom?
I mean, support is an interesting word. We do have access to the free version of Zoom through the web online thing. We can't use the app, but we can use the web. Yeah.
So that's my goal, is to figure out how I can interact with him even more through his Dynavox. So, and then the letter one is another one, is basically, can you tell me where letter B is? And then I have 26 slides, and we go to different slides so he doesn't get familiar with the pattern. So. This is just another slide for a positional. Can you show me where, which pumpkin is on the chair? So we just do some positional slides as well. Same thing here, identifying shapes. I just wanted to show you a few things. And a lot of my slides are black, just because I said the visual impairment that he has, it's better for him to see for the color contrast. So you just really need to know how you are going to set things up for your students so that they're not so busy. This one is that I use with just a step-by-step though, because then I ask him, is this a circle? And I'm asking to see if he can identify if it is or not. So you kind of have to be on your toes about that a little bit, just so that you're knowing what question you're going to ask him. And then going from, is this, a certain color, then I want to see now, can he identify sorting them out? So I would say, this is a Jamboard. So in Jamboard, we were able to use the laser pointer. And so I would use the laser pointer over here to the feather and obviously not say the color of the feather. I just would point to it and I say, what color is the feather? And then he would have to go and identify either orange or green. So not only is we're trying to figure out if he knows his colors, now we need to know if he can sort them out. And then another one too is that our speech therapist has been awesome through this distance learning as well. And so she incorporates a lot of the core vocabulary, because in SNAP Core and his Dynavox, that's what we're mainly focusing on as well. So this is one of her Jamboards that she comes on to my sessions for 10 minutes. And one of the core words was want. And so he would have his step-by-step in saying, I want, but then on the other end, it's a Jamboard. So then he's able to pick which color present he wants. And so then the adult next to him says he picked the green one. So then she would remove the green one and then surprise, you get something kind of thing. Well, not physically get something, but that's your behind the present. So yeah, so we've been able to incorporate a lot of different platforms as far as, Jamboard to Google Slides, just to the Google Meets, step-by-steps. And like I said, just even using your outside resources of Tar Heel Reader or Unite Literacy, just for that story time as well. I do a lot of videos or a story online, and I would show my screen. I'm not particularly fond of that though, because I can't see him and I don't know if that's even what he likes. I think doing Tar Heel or Unite Literacy is a little bit more engaging to him because he can turn the page. But there's a lot of different options, and I was nervous at the beginning of the year, but now I'm just not to say I'm a pro at it, but I really enjoy working with my student through distance learning. He is not able to come to school during this because of health reasons. And so I feel like the connection between the family and I has grown too, because not only we can teach them, they can also learn what we're doing here at school so that we can hopefully better his engagement at home, So, and I think that's the last one. I'm not sure. Yep. So I hope that that's what you wanted, Julie. But
Jodi, it's beautiful. I think what I want is immaterial at times, but I think, yeah, the people have been asking for things about, how do we engage students who are emergent communicators, who aren't using traditional, speech through their mouths. How are people using a communication device of any sort? So I think it's great to hear how you're using a super high-tech, eye-gaze TobiiDynavox device and these lower tech things like a step-by-step. So I think that's great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now and open the door up for people to ask any questions that you've got. You can unmute yourself and ask that way, or you can type something in the chat window, whichever you're more comfortable with.
I do have a question for the group. Like I said, Danelle has been a great resource. However, she's been, I think, so busy that I haven't gotten an answer back of the question that I've been asking. The biggest thing I would like to know is how to create my Google Slides as a cause and effect. So when you're in Snap or when you're in his Dynavox, there are some programs in his Dynavox that when he looks at something, it explodes. It's like, woohoo, something happened. And so I too want to do that, but I don't know if we even have the capability of doing that, because I would love for him, when he sees the correct, or if he looks at something, that it does something for him rather than me saying good job. Does anyone have any experience with that? That's what I'm getting to from.
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like I have seen people do things that are interactive like that in Google Slides, but yeah, if anyone on here has experience doing that, please unmute yourself or type something in the chat window, even if you'd welcome a future contact.
Do you use the Look to Learn software with him on his eye gaze device? That has some similar activities where they look at it and it explodes. Or if they look at it, it'll move puzzle pieces to reveal a picture. I don't know how to do it on Google Slides, but they do have an application that does that.
Yes, when we're in person, we can do that. I'm just wondering how to do it through distance learning, because I'm not able to see his Dynavox when I'm doing it because how he's positioned. So yes, so in person, we have been able to explore those programs. I was just curious on how to do it while we're in distance learning.
I wonder if you could do something in terms of creative camera angles that might help kind of looking over his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Do you Zoom or Google Meet with him off of his actual device, or is there another device showing what he's doing?
Both. We generally do Google Meet on his device so that we only have to do one, but they do have a laptop that in a backup basically, so that we can have it in case one of the devices isn't working. But that is probably a good option. Maybe we could position it over him. He's really good about looking like this though. So if he hears my voice, he's gonna go like this. And so right now, if it's just in one area, it's better. So he really follows my voice where I'm going.
Could you have two tabs open so that you could see too? You know, I know it's hard when you present. And then you have two tabs open that you kind of move them so you can see. It's kind of hard to do it that way. I've done that before to be able to present things and see the student.
Jodi's actually a pro at the split screen Google Meet.
Oh,
But I think with the student on their device, we're kind of looking at some
harder.
different elements that don't quite make that work. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I jumped in and talked for you there, Jodi. All right. Any other questions right now? Okay, well, I'll do a wrap up on the slides, but we can definitely hang around if there are more questions after that too. So I'm going to go ahead and present again. And so in these additional resources, I just shared a couple of things that have come up through AbleNet in the past. And AbleNet is the company that makes the step-by-step switch. They also make the Big Mac. So the Big Mac is a single message communication device, one button, one message that you record. The step-by-step is the sequential messages. So you can record just one message and it would just play that one, or you can record a series of messages. Hey, how's it going? I'm doing well. What are you doing today? So that's kind of the difference between a single message and sequential message devices. So those are just two lists of 101 plus ideas of things that you can do. Some of them would have to be creative in a distance learning environment, but just know that sometimes in my work as an SLP, got stuck of like, we're doing the same things over and over and over with these devices. So sometimes it's helpful to have a big old list to go back to. I also just put on there that Pacer has some upcoming workshops. If you haven't been checking out their workshops that have been coming across, they've got some great resources there, both for us as staff who are working with students, but also for families too. So some great things to be able to share out also. So make sure you check that out. And as always, all of our videos end up on our YouTube channel. So you can check those out, past events, in case you wanted to check out something you missed. Next week, again, we're going to have Sherry Walker talking about Book Creator. So make sure that you register for that one. The email will be coming out shortly with registration email information also if you are on the email list. And as you walk away today, think of your just one thing that Jodi talked about. Maybe it's something with a Jamboard that you saw that could be useful. Maybe it's a way in which you could use a step-by-step, or something if you've got a student using a high-tech device, might be something that she talked about there. But think about just that one thing that might be helpful as you move forward. And thanks so much to everyone for attending. I know as we're making all these transitions in our work, it's tough to find time to do all of the different things that come across our plate. So we appreciate you being here. I'll make sure that I send out a recording of the session once I've got it up and captioned. And don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is there on the screen. I'm going to stop recording now.